Brennan. Lee found fame as the singer from the boy band 911 in the 90s, but we're going to go back, Lee, before that. We're going to go back to when he was just 8 years of age, and he was diagnosed with the form of cancer you may have heard of, known as Hodgkin Lymphoma.
Yeah, following chemotherapy, he did manage to beat the disease, but 5 years later it came back, and that was 25 years ago. We're talking. It does seem a lifetime ago, and we're so pleased that you're here to tell the tale. But you went through a terrible time. How old were you when you were first diagnosed with this?
I was 8 years old. I used to sleep a lot, and my mum picked up on this very, very quickly. Went to the doctors. Was just sent back constantly. Actually, over like 3-6 months, sent home. There's nothing wrong. She noticed the lump just on my jawline there was getting bigger and bigger. And eventually, I think it was about 9 or 10 months down the line, they did a biopsy, and that's when a month later they said, you've got I knew it as Hodgkin's disease back then.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So because there's Hodgkin's lymphoma, Chris, and Hodgkin's non-Hodgkin's.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a complex area, but think of lymphoma, you've got Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is what Lee had, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
But it's cancer, basically.
Yeah, it's cancer of the lymph system. I'll come back to that in a moment. With Hodgkin's, only about 20% of cases of lymphoma are Hodgkin's, 80% are non-Hodgkin's. Hodgkin's affects young people up to the 20s and older people over the age of 70. Non-Hodgkin's tends to affect only over 65s. Can be slow growing. Some of them aren't even treated, they're just watchful waiting. So they're different diseases, but caused by similar, well, we don't know the exact cause, but the symptoms can, of course, be identical. Now, I think I should go through the symptoms because this is very important. Lee mentioned a very important one, swollen gland. It could be one gland, could be several glands, as Lee had in the neck, the armpit or the groin. Normally the swelling is painless. Was yours painless? Yeah. And then other symptoms, night sweats. Did you have them?
Yeah, I did. Weight loss was a big thing for me as well. Actually,
sweats can be any time, frequent, but night sweats can be drenching. Fever, weight loss and fatigue you've described already. Did you have any generalised itchiness?
Not that I remember.
No, okay. Itchiness is another sort of odd symptom. But obviously your swollen glands are very, very common. And this is your immune system, the lymph system. You've got two circulatory systems in your body, blood and lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is clear liquid carrying white cells that protect your body against infection. So say you get a sore throat, well, you get swollen glands. That's a lymph node or several lymph nodes swollen because they're fighting the infection in your throat.
So that's a good thing.
To stop it spreading. So of course, you know, if you find a lump and you've got a throat infection, you haven't got lymphoma, but with this sort of persistent swollen gland, which is usually firm, non-tender, non-painful, in any of the other symptoms, you know, you must get
And also,
checked.
I suppose that listlessness and such tiredness in a young boy is not, or young child, is not right, is it?
What about the treatment? We're used to hearing chemotherapy and radiotherapy as regards cancer treatments. At 8 years of age, what were you subjected to? How did they treat you?
Just chemotherapy was the main thing. I think it was over 6 months. So I think it was every 4 weeks, maybe for 12 courses I think I had. But I had to take 25 pills a day, which was horrendous for... I look back now and I think it was horrible. I was always sick after I took the first few pills. That was quite difficult to sort of go through that, and also time off school, lost my hair, obviously, the side effects.
Seeing pictures of you there losing your hair.
Is this the first time or the second time?
I was 15 then, I think, 14,
15 in that
yeah.
one.
So losing your hair, I went back to school with a cap on and stuff, and that was really difficult. I think kids don't realise what they're saying to you when they're that age, so I had a lot of teasing, kids knocking the hat off me and calling me baldy and stuff, and that really affected me a lot. It really did.
But Lee, when you come through that at 8, and you described how horrible it was, then at 15 to be told that you had it again, are you stronger second time around, or are you weaker second time around?
Well, Dr. Chris will probably know better than me for this bit, but 5 to 6 years is usually, they say, after 5-6 years, you're probably as likely as anybody else to get cancer. And mine came back on that 6th year when I was just turning 15. And I think it was more from being more aware of myself at that age. It was more difficult.
As in self-conscious?
Self-conscious.
Image,
the way I dressed, the way I looked at myself, and Losing my hair again was a difficult thing, and I made the choice not to go back to school because of the way I sort of felt with the teasing and stuff like that.
Also, is it more frightening second time around because you know what to expect? You know, you remember how sick you were after the first, you know, when you first had chemo. When it's happening to you again, you think, well, here we go again, and you know it's like second baby almost. You suddenly know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you do.
Was that worse for you?
Yeah, I think it was. You know exactly what's coming up. You know you're going to lose your hair, and I just became isolated. I wouldn't go out the house at all. Probably 6 to 8 months, just staying in. And hiding from the world, I think, in my own little space and thoughts.
And can I ask you, Lee, the second time, did you get a lump? Is that how you realised it had come back?
First time was there, and I got a lump just down there. Yeah. And very quickly then we got a biopsy done.
Well, you're now, what, 33? So
thank you.
30, yeah?
40.
Well, are you? Sorry, 40.
I'm 40.
Right, sorry. Oh.
33 will do me great.
Yeah. Well, a lot of time has elapsed. I mean, I'm sure you never let your guard up. And do you always wait for bad news again, or do you feel, you know, things are really good? Or?
I think it's always in the back of your mind. It's like in a closed box, all that cancer journey that I went through in the past, and sometimes a little come off and the emotional come back if I see something on the TV or read a story about someone who went through a similar sort of thing, you know. And,
but I mean, you've got to be sensible because you are at increased risk of it recurrent lymphoma. And Lee knows also, I mean, you are at slightly increased risk of some other cancers, but, you know, slight risk, there may be no risk at all. The fascinating thing about, you know, Hodgkin's now, I mean, when you were diagnosed, that was a long time ago, 32 years. Yeah, I mean, it's very different now in terms of rapid diagnosis and the treatments we have now, the chemotherapy, the new drugs, monoclonal antibodies, etc., etc. It's a very different scenario now.
A lot. There's Macmillan, there's Click Sargent, there's so many support out there, counselling sort of thing. It was just the time, wasn't it? It wasn't around then.
Well, what do you have in terms of any legacy from all of this? Is there any after effects, anything?
I think it made me the person that I am, my personality. I'm quite quiet a lot of the time. I'm a deep thinker. I don't like huge crowds of people, even though when I'm on stage, I think I'm a different person anyway. And I've never spoken about this, but obviously chemotherapy, it affects you in that you can't have children. Sadly, I can't have children. And I only found out that 5 years ago, though, so that was quite a difficult time. It just wasn't spoken about.
Sure.
I suppose now,
just trying to understand
that they would take a man's sperm and freeze it, which I presume people didn't think about.
Well, yeah, maybe that was the time. They never thought about that then. Of course, you know, the Hodgkin's can do that, or the chemotherapy can do that. Either of them can affect your fertility.
Well, look, continued good health for you. And I know you're back.
I'm happy.
You're here and you're going on tour
again, aren't you?
We are the big reunion boy band tour in October, so yeah.